Hello and welcome to Wellbeing Therapy Solutions Live. My name is Martin Crowson and I'm delighted to be joined today by the founder of Wellbeing Therapy Solutions, Kate Jackson. Hi, Kate.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it's nice and sunny here. Good morning today. Yeah, you okay?
Yeah. Yes, good, thank you. We've got Kate on here today to basically talk about her background as an occupational therapist and why she chose to get into it, and the benefits of that job. And hopefully you can learn a little bit about that from Kate, who's been in the job for quite a long time now. Fair comment, Kate?
Yes, quite a long time.
Just a reminder before we get into that to please subscribe to the Wellbeing Therapy Solutions YouTube channel. You'll always be first with our updates. And there is a host of information on the channel already, videos covering all sorts of topics to do with wellbeing and mental health that you can access for free. So please check that out when we've finished today. But let's get straight into it today, Kate. And I guess the first question is, why did you choose this as your chosen path?
Oh, well, a bit of a story really, because I think when I was, I guess, 18 or before that, and you're thinking about your career and what you're going to do for a job and what's going to happen when you leave school, I honestly didn't have an idea what I was going to do. Didn't really know. I knew that I wanted to go to university, so that was always on the cards. But what I did was originally my plan was to go and study sports science at Loughborough Uni, and I was offered a place to go, but didn't get the A-level grades, which happens to so many of us, I think.
Wow.
So I did. But I did actually through the time I was desperate to go, and I thought, I need to go to Loughborough because it's this prestigious university, which it absolutely is, and signed up for a sociology course, which was one of my A-levels. Wasn't totally random, but wasn't really in the plan. And it just didn't work out. I went to uni for a term. It wasn't for me, and left and really wasn't sure what I was going to do. It was quite a tough time actually, because it felt a little bit like my dreams have kind of gone really. What I'm going to do? Yeah. So went home, got a job working at British Gas, doing the post run within the building, just needing to work, and that was, I think for me that was a real push, because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. Started to think about where my strengths were, my skills were, and I loved being with people, was how it kind of started. So then I sort of thought about health professions, and I started to do a bit of research. And at that time, it was quite easy to get work experience. People would let you go and shadow and do all sorts of things. It's a bit different now. But I went and shadowed lots of different health professionals and really liked occupational therapy. It kind of stood out to me, felt like it fitted with me and my skills and quality.
Did you do that whilst you were working as well at the same time?
Yeah,
doing that
at the
in your own
same time.
Wow. Okay. Right.
Yeah. Because I just felt this. I think the other thing with going to uni and not really knowing what I wanted to do was it made me realise I needed a profession at the end of my degree. So not just study and then work out what you're going to do. So I wanted a profession, which it gave to me. So I was only out, it was a few months. I applied for uni again the next year and went to the University of Derby, got in there, and that, from then, that's kind of the start of the story, really. That was, I started my training well over 20 years ago at Derby.
Wow.
Had a great time there, made friends for life, and that was where I got into it not really knowing which area of practice I wanted to go into, because it's such a varied profession. We do kind of training in physical health, mental health, learning disabilities, all lots of different training. But then once you've got the foundation, you specialise. And it was my first placement in Leicester, in a mental health unit in Leicester, that really grabbed my passion. And actually, that was my first job in the same place when I qualified.
And it was a 3-year course, was it?
3 years. I did a 3-year undergraduate degree. Yeah. There are master's degrees now as well in 2 years, but mine was a 3-year degree.
Okay, so coming out of a academic situation, and you've got your degree, and then what's the difference between sitting in a classroom in the University of Derby learning how to do this, and then actually sitting with actual clients, and how did that go about?
Yeah. So when you do your academic stuff, you do 3 placements across the course as well, where you're in practice, which for me was the best bit. I loved it, being with real people, helping them in terms of their health and well-being, help people to progress. And I worked in lots of different areas, but the mental health placement just stood out for me, and I absolutely loved it and just got so much reward from there. So yeah, transitioning to practice when you're a newly qualified therapist, it's a bit scary, to be honest.
I bet it is.
It was for me. But what was really nice was I went and worked in the NHS, so I had a lovely team around me. I was really fortunate in my first role. Excuse me. And I had a really great team of therapists and nurses, and I got to know really well, and other medical staff.
Did that help, Kate? Did that help being surrounded by fellow professionals instead of just being, left on your own as soon as you come out of university?
Yeah, it did for me. I needed that kind of grounding in a really secure place. We have what we call professional supervision. So we have to meet at least on a monthly basis with somebody more experienced than you, and that can help guide you in your practice and keep developing. And we've got professional standards to meet as well. So for me, degree courses are very different now to when I trained. They've transitioned so much to be much more entrepreneurial and encourage new therapists to work independently, which lots of new therapists are more than capable of. I just knew for me, I needed more grounding. My confidence wasn't great at that point. I think I needed a bit more to build it up and to feel like I really knew what I was doing, but with the support of other people.
What's it like? What's the personal challenge like of all of a sudden having somebody sat in front of you, knowing that they're relying on you to get them to a better place?
Yeah, I think for me, I see it as the first time you meet somebody, for me, is like the cornerstone of it all, really. And I really feel like that relationship between the two of you is everything. So if you can get that right, which I try really hard to, and it's, it's not, there's an art to it, really, more than a science behind it. It's building that trust and rapport and really getting to know the person. So that's how occupational therapists work, is like really understanding what's important to that person, what life is like for them, what do they do that really helps, but also what do they want to be doing that they're not able to do at that time. And it's building all of that picture over a period of time. And sometimes I work with groups of people. We do that as a group, but more often than not, it's a one-to-one, and it is about getting it right at the beginning, so that they trust you. And sometimes you're not always the right therapist for somebody, and they might need to connect with somebody else. But on the whole, I find most people, you can find that connection in some way and give a bit of yourself to it, professionally. But it can be a challenge. But I think if you have faith in what you've learned and the different approaches that you use, then it's okay. It's all right.
Okay. So from the birth of Wellbeing Therapy Solutions, you obviously started dealing with individual clients. You just spoke then about some group work you did. So explain a little bit about the variation of those two sides of your business before we then move on to the corporate side of things, which you've also developed into. Just talk about those two first.
Yeah. So I feel like my business has two arms to it. So the individual and the group side of it is I work with, so my clients have got younger and younger as I've kind of carried on through the last couple of years working independently. But I can work with children from around the age of 10 upwards, young people, teenagers, right through to adults and older adults. And I do offer individual work with people, which is usually, so most people come to me because they're struggling with their mental health in some way. And that doesn't need to be that they're in a crisis situation, but their mental health and well-being is impacted in some way. Most people I see, it's around anxiety or depression. And they may not necessarily have a diagnosis of those things, but they can see that the way that they're thinking and feeling is impacting on daily life. So individually, I start with a very informal conversation with the person, or if it's a young person, usually with the parent or the two together. We have a chat and get to know each other, and I talk about the approaches that I use, which are based in mindfulness and solution-focused therapy. Sometimes a little bit of cognitive behavioural therapy as well. And we talk it through and see if we might be able to work together. And then it's a bit of a process for me, from starting off, getting to know the person, assessing what their needs are, setting some goals, and then starting to do some real interventions with somebody. And then on the group, so groups are great because it means people often get that support of hearing that somebody else is probably feeling very similar to you or can relate to you. And there's different ways. So I co-facilitate a group called Stepping Stones with the Shuttlewood Clark Foundation. And that's a brilliant group run by a charity, and it's based on supporting recovery for people experiencing anxiety and or depression. And we have different topics each week. We always do some coping strategies. We give people a space to talk and be able to share what's been happening for them. And then I do more structured groups as well. So I've just finished a family healthy minds group where we had parents and children together in different families coming together, looking at skills, particularly for the child, but also supporting the parent in helping the child to overcome some of their difficulties and have some strategies and ways to have those supportive conversations.
With all the family on a Zoom call, presumably?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great. I worked with 10 families sign up, and we did it online at the minute because we couldn't get everybody together at that point, but that was really quite powerful. I think sometimes having, I'm really happy to work with children on their own, but having parents there as well can have benefits.
And certainly over the last 12 months, the group work has developed into some corporate work as well, hasn't it? What sort of things have you been offering there?
Yeah. So I think when I set up the business, it was really about my values and my passions. And I'm really passionate about raising awareness of the difficulties people can have with mental health as early as possible. So having worked in the NHS and having worked in specific crisis services, seeing people who are really unwell and, a real crisis point, I think my personal value is if we can educate people earlier and help people to notice things a bit earlier, can prevent getting to that point for a lot of people. So I thought there was a real gap in working within workplaces, and lots of workplaces want to support the health and well-being of their staff genuinely. So the way that we can do that is different. Sometimes I'll go into a workplace and do some awareness workshops, some strategies. We'll do some stuff around stress management or learning more about what anxiety and depression is, or signs. So I tend to write quite bespoke things for each corporate client, just depending on what their needs are, who their staff group are as well, and looking at demographics of the staff, but also needs of the staff. And I also do mental health first aid courses directly into workplaces as well. So every workplace of a certain size, every workplace has to have a physical first aider by law. You don't have to have a mental health first aider by law, but it's becoming much more I
can imagine. More prevalent.
Absolutely more prevalent, and more people open to it, which is just still such stigma and taboo around mental health. But we're getting there, and things are being challenged so much more.
With so many strands to the business, is it even a feasible question to ask you which side of it you enjoy the most?
Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? I think the key, the thing for me is I love to see some kind of change or progress, and sometimes that's in a group, and you see I'm doing a mental health first aid course, you see a light bulb moment for somebody and they go, oh yeah, that makes total sense, or I just didn't know that, and I can really see that now. Or with an individual client, you get those light bulb moments, or they come in and say they've done something that they hadn't been able to do for a long time because they've got all the strategies in place and found a way to do it. And whether it's within training, education, workshops, or with individual clients, you get a real reward and buzz from it, just seeing that change.
I can imagine. It must have been an incredible last 12 months for you personally, with what's been going on in the world. Before we get on to how that has changed your business, what about how you've managed to maintain your own mental health during all this? Because we've all faced challenges, all sorts of different challenges. You're dealing with this, all day from a work perspective. But what about you personally?
Yeah, I think over the years I've been really conscious of my own mental health and taking care of it. And I think I've found ways over the years of doing that. So I regularly check in with how I'm feeling, what I'm doing, what my thinking is like, and how I'm behaving, and do a bit of a stop and check every now and again, because I kind of know my own signs of stress now. So if I know that and I'm noticing those things happening, I've then got a plan of what I go to help me. And I know that I need to take a few days off work every 8 to 10 weeks. The pandemic obviously has just changed, has impacted on all of us in different ways, and having a child at home, trying to balance homeschooling and work, for me talking is massive. I've got a lovely support network around me of my husband and my family and some great friends that I know just talking about things makes a real difference. I know who I can go to. So it's not saying that it's not been stressful, it has, and I think there's been times that have been harder than others, but I think it's working out for you, because we're all different, we're all unique. What is it for you that you need to keep yourself mentally well?
And I guess that's part of the battle, isn't it? And being prepared, especially if you're running your own business, to actually say, I do need a couple of days away from this. And everyone has their own way of coping with it, don't they?
I found it really hard at the start, if I'm really honest, taking time off and thinking I shouldn't, but it's not. I've got to accept. I've accepted that, and I know I need it, and I just do it now.
Okay. And from a business perspective, before we get into too much detail about what happened during that spell, you've now become a star of the radio as well. Some appearances on Radio Leicester. What's that been like?
That wasn't planned. It was they approached me initially to talk. It was probably quite early on in the lockdown, but to join and just share some tips and hints for people to look after their own mental health and well-being. And it's kind of every now and again they come back to me and ask me to share something. What Radio Leicester have done is created a slot in their breakfast show called Zen to 8. Okay. And that's about stopping in the morning and checking in with your well-being. And they have a different speaker on each week to talk about different things we can do to look after our well-being and raise awareness. But I found the radio broadcast really helpful in kind of sharing those tips and things with as many people as possible. Because I think it is about the day-to-day stuff, what we might see as small things, but those small things are really important. And that reminder through the radio is great, and just being able to share some of that. And then we've written blogs afterwards to kind of capture some of that and talk about. But lots of different topics they've asked me to talk about around young people's mental health, some of the strategies that we might use to implement to improve our mental health and well-being. If we're overwhelmed, what can we do? So, and again, must
be quite rewarding to know that that's going out to so many people, and there's a good chance of you helping many of them that are listening. And I think, again, coming back to the values of why I set up the business, that was one of the key things about reaching out to as many people as possible. Okay. Everyone's life and business has changed over the last 12 months, and how's the pandemic affected Wellbeing Therapy Solutions? And tell us some of the ways you've changed, or the business has had to change during that time.
Yeah, the main thing for me that's changed is transition to online working. I really wasn't doing much of that at all pre-March last year. I didn't even know what Zoom was, and now using it nearly every day, really. So that's been the biggest change for me, is what we're working from home. I'll talk a little bit about that in terms of opportunities for premises and things, but I'm delivering mental health first aid courses online, I'm delivering therapy online, workshops, and actually it's been really, really successful, really good way to bring people together who wouldn't necessarily be able to get in the same room at the same time every week. Been running courses for businesses that would have, maybe it just wouldn't have been practical before to do it, but it just gives us an opportunity to do those things. And certainly being able to work with people all over the country doing mental health first aid courses and bringing them together. Whereas I do hope to get back to classroom training at some point, but it does give you other opportunities. And then the other kind of part of the business was, previously I was renting rooms in different places and borrowing, and I did get my own premises in Countersthorpe in Leicester, which was lovely, and I was there for a few months. But then with the changes that happened, I actually decided to transition my business to home. A lot around going back into homeschooling and things. I just felt like I needed to be able to work from home more than being sat at my kitchen table. So just changed a room in the house to be an office and a therapy room, and that's working really well at the moment.
And you're happy with that room you created, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, I love it. It's really it's a good place for me to work for my mental health. I can close the door, and it's a nice office, but it's also a really nice space for my clients as well.
Okay. And as if you're not busy enough, you decided to work with some students from University of Derby and Coventry University, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah. So working with students has always been something that's really close to my heart. I was a lecturer at university for a long time, and love working with students. So combining the two, being back in practice and having students on placement, was really important to me when I set the business up. And I took my first students last year, September to December, from Coventry University and from the University of Derby, and a couple of them were placed with me in the business, and then I also supported and supervised some students in a school as well, and continuing that now. So to me, it's I just feel like as qualified professionals, we have to give back a bit, and we have to support the next generation of therapists coming through.
Very important.
Being independent. I mean, to be fair, it does take time, obviously. I need to give them time, but if I can plan that in, and they also bring a lot to me as well. They bring they're fresh out of uni, they've got all the ideas, they've got all the evidence, they're great and a real asset as well. So I'd encourage any independent therapist to explore the options for supporting students on placement, because it really is an opportunity as well, and obviously we need to plan in the support that they need. But I feel it's really important for us to do that.
Okay. One of the biggest parts of your business is the mental health first aid courses that you run as well. They've been incredibly popular, haven't they, during this time? Yeah. Is that something you expect to continue over the next 6-12 months?
Yeah, I think so. I trained as a mental health first aid instructor with MHFA England when I set up my business 2.5 years ago, and I love it. It's a really high quality course that teaches people to be able to spot signs and symptoms that somebody might be struggling with their mental health, but also what to do then, how to support somebody without becoming a therapist, without having to diagnose somebody. It's that initial support and noticing.
It's open to anyone. Just open to anyone.
Anybody, absolutely anybody. The course that I do is the adult course, so anyone over the age of 16 can come and do the course, and it's about being there for adults. But it has, it's grown. I run open courses which anybody can come to. So if you're an individual, or if you've just got a couple of people in the workplace that want to train, you're a smaller company, they can come and join an open course. But I've been doing lots of in-house courses as well for different businesses, where we have a group of between 8 and 12 staff members who can train as mental health first aiders, and that's either 2 days in the classroom, but at the minute that's sessions online, 4 sessions online plus online work. But there's also shorter courses as well, which are around raising mental health awareness. You don't have to train to be a mental health first aider if you don't want to, but just to get some skills in knowing more about mental health.
Okay, we'll be giving you a little bit more information at the end of the broadcast in a few minutes about how you could get in touch with Kate to get yourself on one of those courses if you're so interested. But for the meantime, Kate, it's been an incredible 12 months. What's coming up in the year ahead?
Yes, it has been a 12 months. Didn't at all anticipate how it was going to be, but in a really exciting place at the moment. I am exploring the opportunity of growing my team of therapists and trainers as well. So that's kind of in the background at the moment, but hoping I'll be able to do that
Exciting.
the coming months, because because there is just such a need, and there always has been a need, but the aftermath of the pandemic for so many people has been such a challenge. Particularly, I'm getting lots of inquiries at the moment for young people. So supporting them and being available to them is really important, and just continuing to contribute to MHFA England's end goal, which is to train 1 in 10 of the adult population in England in mental health first aid skills. So continuing to do those courses, and students are always welcome. So I'm sure they'll have lots of student placements as well.
Okay, fantastic. Kate, tell us how people can get in touch with you if they wanted to explore any of the topics we've spoken about today.
Yeah, so people can contact me by email, which is just up there on the screen. So you can contact me by email. There's a contact form through my website as well. And I'm on social media. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. I'm at KateJOT, and LinkedIn as well. So social media, website, email, and my phone number's on the website as well if people prefer to talk over the phone.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to chat with you this morning, Kate. Thank you very much for your time.
Likewise,
folks, thanks for joining us. Thanks for joining us today, folks. We're going to be doing lots more of these over the coming months, so please subscribe to the YouTube channel so you'll be first with the latest news about when we're going to go live. And as Kate says, stay tuned into those social media channels. For now, I'm Martin Crowson. Thanks a lot to Kate Jackson again, and have a good day, and we'll catch you soon. Bye-bye.